So, page 111 in your math book on applications of percents, topic 4, block 3. Um, so, Haley is this recurring character in the percentages unit. And it says, back at basketball practice, Haley's coach is impressed with the improvement in her scoring ability over the past month. Well, and why wouldn't he be? She went from scoring 12 points per game last month to scoring 18 points per game this month. Okay. So he exclaims, Haley, you have made a 100% improvement in your average points per game. Oh gosh, that's nice of him to say. Now, if Haley had increased her average points per game by 100%, how many points per game would she be scoring this month? Well, so let's have a look at that. So last month, last month she scored 12 points. So you can see it right here, right? 12 points. Ooh, that's nice. And this month it says that she scored 18. Now, if she scored 100%, like a 100% improvement, how many points did she score this month? Anybody have any ideas about that? I mean, there is, what's 100% of 12, right? Last month she scored 12 points, right, per game. And so what's 100% of 12? Well, isn't it 12? Right? So if she increased her average points per game by this 100%, how many points per game would she be scoring this month? Well, if 100% of 12 is 12, then you'd have to take the points that she scored last month plus 100% of that added to that, which would make it, she would have to be scoring 24 points per game. Interesting, right? Does that make sense? Now, let's take a look at question B here. And it says, if she had increased her average points per game by only 25%, how many points per game would she be scoring? Well, let's see. 25% of 12 is how much? 25% of 12. 25%. Remember the tape diagram? We could set up an easy tape diagram. That would be great. Here's 0, right? And 0%. And 12 would be 100%. So 50% would be 6, right? Because whoops, sorry about that. 6 up there. That's 50%. And half of 6 would be 25%. So that would be 3. So 25% of 12 is 3. Very good. So how many points per game would she be scoring this month? Well, then that would be 12 last month plus 3 more she would be scoring a total of 15 points per game this month. Aha. See? Now, by how many points did Haley actually increase her average? So how many points did she actually score? She didn't score 100% better, right? She's not doing 100% better. She's not doing 25% better. By how many points did she actually increase her average? Well, if she did 12 last month and she's doing 18 this month, she'd have to have, that's 6 more points, right? And we found 6 more points to be 50%. So she scored 6 more points per game. And so that increase is a 50% increase. So by what percent did she improve her average points per game? Well, 50% more. So it was a 50% more, or 50% increase. Okay. How are we doing with that? Does that make sense? We like it? We like it? Of course. Okay. So let's go on to the next question. Now, let's apply, it says apply your knowledge of finding the percent of a number to find the percent increase or decrease. All right. So, just a second. All right, so now we're on page 112. And it says apply your knowledge of finding the percent of a number to find the percent increase or decrease. Okay. Last week, Haley scored 15 points, and she increased her points 20% during her game this week compared to last week. So how many points did she score this week? Well, there are a couple of different ways we could look at this. First of all, we know that if she had 15 points last week, that was 100%, right? Then she increased it by 20%. So 100% plus 20% is 120%. And that makes sense. But we would have to find out what is 20% of 15. So what is 20% of 15? We'd have to figure that out. So remember, if we were to write this, 20% of 15. Well, remember, that means we could write this as a mathematical equation. 20% would be 0.20, but of course that last 0 isn't necessary. Of means multiply, and 15. So 0.2 times 15 is 3 points. So 15 plus 20% of 15 is 3, which would be 18 points. So how many points did she score this week? 18. Okay. So far, so good, right? Let's take a look at question B. Marco scored 40% more points this week than last. This week, he scored 28 points. So how many did he score last week? So there's this unknown thing that we've got going on, right? 40% more this week than last week. So whatever last week's scores, I'll put a dividing line right there. We'll work in another color. So whatever last week's score is, that's what we don't know. And we can look at this. Last week's score, we don't know. Plus 40% of that is going to equal a total of this week, which is 28 points. So of course, 100% of last week is, that's the unknown we don't have, right? The unknown number of last week is x. And then 40% of x, because it says that it's 40% more points. And then that equals the 28 points that he has so far. Now, 40% of x, that can be rewritten as, an equation, right? 40% would be 0.4 of is multiply and x. Okay. So now we have x plus 0.4 times x equals 28. And let's see, 0.4 times x is 0.4 x. And we add that to x, and we get 28. All right. Running out of space here. That's okay. Now, x plus 0.4x. Remember, if you have an x, that's a 1, right? 1x plus 0.4x is 1.4x. And that equals 28. Now, if I divide by 1.4 on both sides, now this is not the only way to look at these problems, but that's how we're going to look at this one. Divide 1.4 by 1.4, and we get x equals 28 divided by 1.4. And that equals 20. So that means that last week, because that's what x was, the points that he scored last week, is 20 points. Okay. Now, if that was even the least bit confusing, don't worry, because we're going to keep practicing this kind of thing more and more. And I don't want anybody to get lost.